Hi AP, so today we are working on slightly more complex conditionals, and before we even get to the code you guys are using, I just want to explain kind of what we're doing here. So you have this diagram in your asynchronous work, and the top part of this diagram is like conditionals as you usually see them. When you guys usually see an if, an else if, an else, maybe even several else ifs in there, it's kind of like you're walking down a hallway with a bunch of different doors. And the way the computer program works is it's always going to try the first door, the if, and if you can't go in that door, it's going to try the second door, the else if, and if you can't get in that door, it's going to try the else, and it's always going to let you into the else if you didn't get into the other ones first. Now, after you go through that door, sometimes you just see code, and what we've been doing so far, you get through the door, something happens. In some cases, in more complicated code scenarios, and some situations that you guys might want to code this year, after you go through that first door, you might have something happen, you might get a message, something might appear on the canvas, but there might also be another door that you could go through. And if you make it through that other door, there might be some code beyond that door, and then another door beyond that. And all of these conditionals would live inside of that first one, meaning they are between the curly braces that define that first conditional. We see this here in this code. We see this curly brace start here, its end is all the way down at the bottom. Then we see our second conditional start and end here, and our third one starts and ends here. Both of these two are wrapped up inside of our first condition, meaning they are behind that first door, and condition 3 is inside of condition 2, meaning it's after that second door. Now, to help this make sense, we are going to come back to dealing with those alerts, confirmations, and prompts, and we're actually going to look back at some code that we did in a code along previously. We are going to try and code this out all together, and then you guys have one just kind of long challenge that you'll be dealing with today. So please make sure you've duplicated that code. You'll notice as you scroll through it that there is no draw or setup function. We are just dealing with our vanilla JavaScript, no libraries today. And then go ahead and hit play. So right now the way this program works, we've seen it before, it's going to ask you what date it is. If you say November 3rd, it's going to say that it's election day and tell you to go vote. And then after it, it's going to ask, are you registered to vote? And if you click OK, it's going to say vote on election day. This is kind of a weird way for the program to work because in our state, in New York, you have to register before election day. You can't actually register the day of the election. So if I were making this program, maybe I only want it to ask if I'm registered to vote if it's not election day and it's not right after an election. So we can see our code here. This is everything for that first prompt. It takes the variable, it checks what day it is, it gives me responses, and then after it makes my variable for my confirmation, and then it checks the responses true or false, and it gives me information. Now instead of having this here, why don't we put all of this inside the right conditional? So if I go through door number 1, that's election day. I can't register to vote on election day, so it should just say go vote. November 4th, maybe I just am concerned with the results. Maybe I don't care so much about registration that day. But if it's November 5th or any other day of the year, I want to make sure that people are registering to vote. So after I tell them that there's no election today, I'm going to make a door that lives behind this else statement and only behind this else statement. And I'm going to do that by essentially repeating the code that happened down here. So instead of always asking, are you registered to vote, I am only going to ask if it's not election day. So I'm going to create a variable to hold that data. I'm going to call it reg status because I don't want to type out registration. And I'm going to use a confirm that says, are you registered? Oops, that's not how you spell registered. Registered to vote. Now this is only happening if I reach this else statement. I am between these two curly braces, which means I am inside my else statement, and everything in here will only happen as a result of making it through this else statement door. It will not happen if it's November 3rd or November 4th. So once I have asked that question, then I'm going to put in another conditional. This is the door that lives behind the else door. I'm going to say that if my registration status was true, meaning I'm registered to vote already, I am going to alert the person by saying, nice, vote on election day. And this whole conditional, this if statement, which starts on line 15 and ends on line 17, is entirely wrapped up in my else statement. Now I can also add another else statement here. This else statement is tied to my first one. This is like another door option behind the else. These two go together, they're in the same hallway. And this one is going to give an alert that says, make sure to register to vote. Now, I should only be able to get these if I give a date that is not November 3rd or November 4th. So let's test it. I'm going to put in November 3rd first just to make sure that it works. If I type November 3rd, it should say what's on line 6. It's election day, go vote. I click OK. I get my message. Now if I hit it again and I say that today is October 9th, now it's going to say no election today. That's line 12. But then it's also going to make everything happen that's on line 14 and below. So if I click OK, it's going to say, are you registered to vote? If I click cancel or no, it's going to say, make sure to register to vote. And then I click OK and my program is over. So this is an example of a conditional, this one on lines 15 through 19, inside of a bigger conditional, in this case my else statement, which goes from lines 11 to 21. Now what you guys are going to do is try and write your own nested conditionals, where you're going to be asking people what season they were born in, and based on their response, you'll be asking them a question about that season and then giving them appropriate responses. I know that this seems like kind of a silly task, but at this point we're really just getting used to the syntax of writing a lot of conditionals in one place and keeping them organized when they're inside one another. We've talked a lot before about how indentation doesn't matter in JavaScript the way it does in Python, but indentation can help us keep organized. And if you notice that your code's getting a little wonky, if up at the top here you hit tidy code, it will kind of snap your code back into place where you have everything like neatly indented in the right way so that it's really clear for and easy for you to see what is inside of what. I will tell you that when it does this, it lines up the curly braces in a way that I hate. So I always go through and hit enter because I like to see my else and my ifs on separate lines. It is not right or wrong to have it one way or the other. It's just like a very stylistic choice that programmers will be fighting about from now till eternity. Good luck with your challenge, guys. I'm really excited to see what you do. As always, please drop questions in the Slack and also come to Lab Lounge hours if you want to talk through this more. I know this is a complicated subject. Bye, guys.